Madani Inam number 45, ostentation. Sometimes it happens. Like Amir al-Sunnah gives an example. We say, Yaar, I'm the worst person on the planet, I'm really, really bad person. But if someone calls me a bad person or something else, I'll get angry. And that does happen. So that means that my tongue is saying something else, but I've got something else in my heart. How can we, make ourselves, such that whatever I say is in my heart as well?
Hafizab, the Madani Inam that we're referring to here identifies a very important disease within our current society, Hamare Muashime. And it has become more common over time. Our Buzurg, our elders used to talk about people as being genuine and being what they are. And I remember people saying, I want people to be so that you can see straight through them. And these days, people say it's very difficult to find those sorts of people.
True.
Now, in this Madani Inam, Amir al-Sunnah Damat Barakatum al-Aliyah is referring to, did you refrain from, so did you stay away from committing hypocrisy? And that is a common problem today. In the olden days, the thing that we learned from our elders, Hafizab, is this, that when they had all their good qualities, they used to hide them. And even their deeds, when they, there was many narrations where, somebody discovered their pious acts, and they used to strike him off that list and think, well, somebody's found out about this one, so therefore it's not going to help me on the Day of Judgment because maybe I didn't do it for the sake of Allah.
Allahu Akbar.
And yet today, our life revolves around hypocrisy, where we're trying to pretend in front of people that we are doing all these noble things. Main itne hajj kiye, maine ye kiya, maine wo kiya, maine itni namaze padhi, main masjid ka kaam kar raha hu. And then if we stop and pause there, if we're doing it for the sake of Allah Azza wa Jal, why are we kind of putting it in front of people? And then, hum bada chira ke kyun kar rahe hain? And then often, this is a difficult one because, and I'm just dealing at the moment with, this is how much thought goes into these Madani Inam. Amir al-Sunnah Damat Barakatum al-Aliyah ne yuhi nahi likh rahi hai. He hasn't just sat down and thought, okay, I'll mention hypocrisy. He has designed these Madani Inam so that we start to look at ourselves critically. And in this one Madani Inam, I mean, I've just taken the word hypocrisy yet, and I could, we could carry on for the whole silsila on that. But looking at that, committing hypocrisy, I mean, if I am, the essence of hypocrisy is, in a way, lying, because you're pretending to be something you're not. So, ek to usme riyakari bhi aa rahi because you're showing off, but then you're adding to that. Misal ke taur par, if I'm reading, 10 nafils a night, but then I say, I'm reading 20, there's that as well. But the other thing is this, agar main aapko ye targheeb doon, you should be like this, and you should be like this, and you should be like this, but yet I know in my heart that I don't do any of that, and for some reason I pretend that it doesn't apply to me. That's another state where hypocrisy comes into it, because I'm not trying to change myself. Ek to hota na, I'm trying to change myself.
But here, Haroon, there's another thing though. If someone says, sometimes, you have Islamic brothers and, when you want to ask them, for example, wearing the Imam Sharif, Sunnah of the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. What you said is that, people will think that, look, because I'm not doing it myself, so I can't say it to others as well. Now, if that is the case, then there's a lot of things that, we don't do ourselves, but we will do, we will tell people to do it. Now, again, it's the intention in the heart. If we go accordingly to, that I can't tell anyone because I don't do it myself, then how are we going to spread neki ki dawat?
Usme, what the scholars say in relation to that, Hafizab, is this, that if you, misal ke taur par, if you are giving somebody targheeb for namaz, yes, and you know that I miss some of my namaz as well, say for example, it will help you as well, because it'll bring out a sense of guilt in yourself. I'm asking others to pray namaz or read the Quran, and yet I don't act upon it. That is one thing, and it brings up your conscience. That's what you're referring to. What here we're referring to is people who are in the habit of telling other people to do things, but they deliberately don't apply it to themselves. And they will be happy with one situation, and they don't want to change their situation, but they're happy to point fingers at others. And here, the essence of it is that you need to first take a step back and look at yourself.
We see a lot of this sometimes, especially when you're talking to the parents, yeah? Now, you might be talking to the father, look, make sure your son comes to the madrasa Madrasatul Madina Balighan. Make sure he travels on the Madani Qafila. Yeah, take my son. Mere bete ko le jao, do this way. Take him on the Madani Qafila. Take him to Madrasatul Madina Balighan. But when you ask the person himself, what about you? I don't have time. So again, we're telling our other people to go, but we are not willing to sacrifice that time as well.
On that one, Hafsab, Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen, in the beautiful Madani Mahal of dawateislami, we had the specific ijtima in Manchester, where it was all about the honour of parents. And one of the things that came up there was this, that when, as a parent, we tell the child to do one thing, but we don't practice upon it ourselves. Misal ke taur par bachche se kaha ki you got to read namaz, we're sat there. Or you can't watch movies, but we're sat there watching movies. What the child, he gets a dislike to you. Why? Because what the ulama ikram say is he thinks you're a hypocrite. He thinks you're a hypocrite. Why? Because you're preaching one thing, but not acting upon it yourself. So hypocrisy from that angle comes into it as well, where you're telling people to do things, you're telling your own children. And you know what they say, later on in life, that child actually subconsciously begins to hate the parents because he thinks, my parents sit in front of me and they commit hypocrisy, where they tell me to do things, but they aren't exempt from it, but they don't do it. And that's, you often get people, especially in the month of Ramadan, where, Abaji says, Putter, you need to go to Tarawih, and Putter says, well, yes, but so do you. And, and that's the truth. And one of the things that we need to protect ourselves in the home is hypocrisy as well. Agar aapne bachche se kaha na, if I said to my son, beta, you shouldn't be watching movies, but yet late at night, I'm watching, it doesn't work.
Just imagine, that's the last thing I think anyone wants, their children to think that my dad is always lying.
We love Madani Channel. We love Madani Channel. We